So welcome to the DB4. Is there a problem with the sound? Okay. So welcome to the DB4 retreat day. Same kind of general format, general idea as all of the others. We may or may not, need the full 4 hours. There's a plan on doing 4 meditations today. So 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, making space for some question and answer, of course, as well. But we do also, as you know, have on Monday the discussion group as well from 7 to 8:30. That's another final opportunity to address issues, questions from the course. So we've got that planned as well. I do have the quiz for everyone, and I plan to just send that out on Monday for people. And like before, you've got a week. Best not to open it until you're ready to write the exam. It's a short answer. It's a bit more reflective, maybe, than some of the others. Samantha can, if she's taken it, she can tell you without being too specific, kind of what to expect. It's a short answer quiz. It's a bit more reflective in the sense that we are requesting that people go into it, after reviewing their notes, but not with their notes. And then if you really, really stuck on something, it's okay to kind of go back and look at materials, but then not to actually use those materials when you go back to, so, don't copy and paste. You can refresh your understanding if you really need to, but best not to, of course. Just, it's not like an essay where you're kind of getting sources and that sort of thing. So short answer, not multiple choice. I think something like 8 or 10 questions. I don't think it's too intense. So yeah, that'll go out on Monday. Was there any sort of urgent questions or concerns or some things that people wanted to address right off the bat? Nope. All right. So this being a retreat day, as before, it's ideal if you can try to set yourself up at least, through the end of the actual time, to kind of reduce distraction, not to, be on your phone, to reduce that as much as possible, to reduce other sorts of entertainment as much as possible, even during the break time, to read, to listen to teachings, to kind of maintain a retreat attitude, at least through, 3:30, 4 o'clock or so, so that you can kind of stay in that headspace rather than, kind of looking for exits, kind of running for like, oh, there's this period, but then there's this break period. In the break period, that's when I can, go on Netflix. Or no, it's best to, kind of maintain one sort of mental space for the day, to really treat it as a full day of retreat. So I mentioned for the last one that I ended up also doing. I think I plan to do the next one too, because the next one is on death, and that's a really interesting retreat day. I enjoy that retreat day, the death and impermanence retreat day. But then Venerable Angie is going to teach the module on karma, which is not, she's still wanting to tell me exactly how many, whether she wants 5 or 6 classes. She plans to do also that retreat day. Not next one, but the one after that. Right. So I mentioned last time that generally when a person is doing sort of a lam-rim, either a lam-rim day of retreat or even just has a lam-rim practice, ideally a person would do two things to set up that day, which can be done in different ways. But those two things are, I mean, of course, you've got all of the setting up of the altar and the cleaning of the space and setting out offerings. That's all, of course. But, you would generally, if you had that sort of thing, you'd be doing that, hopefully, most days, setting up the altar, water bowls, that kind of thing for whether you get to actually meditate that day or not. Maybe you're just too busy, but still good to set out offerings, in the morning if you've got a space to do that. The two things that are associated with a day of retreat, particularly on the Lam Rim, is to start with some sort of Guru Yoga practice and then also a glance meditation on the Lam Rim. So Guru Yoga practice can come in many forms. The one that we'll be doing today, I don't know if Venerable Nima introduced, or this will be the introduction of FPMT's, what they call the daily practice on Shakyamuni Buddha. That is their kind of version of a Guru Yoga practice. Yoga is the root, the sort of original root of yoke, like a yoking a cart to an ox. So it means to join. Is the kind of root of the word that became yoke. So yoga means to join. So Guru Yoga means to join one's mind with the mind of the Guru, to kind of to become close with the Guru, to come together with the Guru, to merge our mind and the Guru's mind. And so that is, if a person has a individual root Guru, then often that visualization is involved in the practice. If not, then meditating on Shakyamuni Buddha or Lama Tsongkhapa or a different sort of historical figure that for you is the figure that is most impactful in your own life, your own spiritual journey. And of course, because Shakyamuni Buddha is the originator of all of the teachings, then FPMT is using that as the entry point into Guru Yoga. So we'll begin with that, what I'm calling a Guru Yoga practice. And then we will move together in one meditation after that into meditating on the need for the spiritual guide, which was something I know that Venerable Nima talked about in the very first class that I was in, and probably it came up again. That meditation is what we'll move into, and then we'll take a break. Any questions before we go into that? All right, so wherever you are, however you're seated, try to adjust your posture. We are all familiar with setting up the body in meditation. So just begin to adopt what for you is a stable, comfortable, upright position. So we keep our feet flat and our back is straight. Our torso is open. Hands are in the lap, right over left, with the palms upturned and the thumbs gently touching up against the belly, maintaining a nice soft belly, relaxed. Our eyes are gently closed or slightly open, making sure that we're letting in enough light that we can remain sharp, focused, alert. We have a unfocused, slightly downward gaze. We just try to make sure that we check in with the body as we meditate. Make sure we don't begin to slouch, to lean, that our spine stays upright, but we also relax into the posture, not holding unnecessary tension or rigidity. And then begin to just move your awareness away from your environment, moving it toward the body, the mind, moving it inward. Allowing whatever sights, whatever sounds, whatever's in your environment to just be as it is. No need to investigate. And begin to concentrate that awareness by attending to whatever sensations you can perceive in the space around the opening of the nostrils that are accompanying the in-breath and the out-breath. Breathing naturally and normally, and just noticing the sensations that arise in the space around the opening of the nostrils. Giving yourself the instruction to notice quickly when something other than that sensation arises in the mind, and if that happens, when that happens, lifting your awareness up from those distractions and placing it gently but firmly again and again on the breath. And then when the mind feels more calm, we generate our motivation for the session, for the day, and reflecting on how incredibly lucky we are to have woken up yet again in a perfect human rebirth. All of its freedoms, its leisures. We've made a connection to our spiritual path. We've made connections with teachers, able to explain that path. And I think that with all of those incredible blessings that we've received, we have an opportunity to really transform the mind, to be of extraordinary benefit to sentient beings. This opportunity is so rare, so precious. I think we must take the essence of this life, transform the mind in this way, become deeply habituated to virtue, reduce the presence of afflicted states of mind, become wish-fulfilling for sentient beings. And then with that motivation, we, from our hearts, make a request to Shakyamuni Buddha. So you can recite after me, or you can just make a request from your own heart. To the Guru, Founder, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Please grant me your blessings. To the Guru, Founder, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Please grant me your blessings. To the Guru, Founder, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Please grant me your blessings. Then we visualize ourselves in a much larger open space. I think at the level of our forehead, about 6 or 8 feet in front, is a large golden throne, adorned with jewels and supported on each corner by a pair of snow lions. On the throne is an open lotus and a sun and moon disk. Upon the lotus, sun, and moon is seated Shakyamuni Buddha, the manifestation of the omniscient mind of all the Buddhas, the Dharmakaya, the ultimate Guru. He's inseparable from one's own root Guru, one who shows the unmistaken path. His body is in the nature of golden light, and he's adorned in the 3 saffron robes of a monk. His face is beautiful, and his loving smile embraces you and all sentient beings, just as you are. His compassionate eyes gaze upon you and encompass all other sentient beings. His eyes are long, narrow, fine, and his gaze is peaceful. His eyes are half closed, half open. His lips are red, his hair is blue-black, with each hair curling individually to the right. The crown of his head is adorned with the Nushnisha. The palm of his right hand rests on his right knee, the middle finger touching the moon cushion. His left hand rests in his lap, in the mudra of meditation. In his left hand is a bowl filled with nectar, nectar that can cure all of the delusions, the afflictions. From his body, light rays are emanated in all 10 directions. And light rays are composed of numberless manifestations of the Buddha to ripen infinite sentient beings. And from the throne, Shakyamuni says, son or daughter of the lineage, if you want to be liberated from the suffering of samsara, I will guide you. And we visualize that around us in all directions are infinite sentient beings. Visualized in human form, but representing all 6 realms. And we think of the attendant sufferings of those realms. The beings in them experiencing those sufferings. These sentient beings, as well as oneself, need a valid source of refuge to turn to. So connect with your sense of refuge, your sense of turning toward the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha for safe direction. And as you hold that sense of refuge in your mind, you can recite the prayer of refuge. To the Guru, I go for refuge. To the Buddha, I go for refuge. To the Dharma, I go for refuge. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. To the Guru, I go for refuge. To the Buddha, I go for refuge. To the Dharma, I go for refuge. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. To the Guru, I go for refuge. To the Buddha, I go for refuge. To the Dharma, I go for refuge. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. And think that nectar and light flows from Shakyamuni Buddha, entering your body through the crown of your head, as well as every other sentient being surrounding you. Think that this nectar and these light rays purify all disease, harm, obstacles, negativities, obscurations, any broken samaya. And this nectar develops all positive qualities, all of your realizations of the path, all direct insights leading from Guru devotion up to full enlightenment. Think that you and all sentient beings are coming under the guidance, the care, the protection of enlightened mind, enlightened activity. And then we will contemplate the four immeasurable thoughts. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of hatred and attachment. May they abide in equanimity. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. Please, Guru Deity, grant me blessings to be able to do this. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. May they have happiness and its causes. I myself will cause them to have happiness and its causes. Please, Guru Deity, grant me blessings to be able to do this. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free of suffering and its causes. May they be free of suffering and its causes. I myself will cause them to be free of suffering and its causes. Please, Guru Deity, grant me blessings to be able to do this. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never separated from the happiness of higher rebirth and liberation. May they never be separated from these. I myself will cause them to never be separated from these. Please, Guru Deity, grant me blessings to be able to do this. And we develop a special bodhicitta. In particular, I must achieve enlightenment quickly in order to free all the numberless, kind mother sentient beings from the unimaginable oceans of samsaric suffering and causes of suffering, and lead them to peerless, full enlightenment. For this purpose, I'm going to meditate on the stages of the path to enlightenment. And the 7-limb prayer. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actually offered and mentally transformed. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. And then we offer a mandala. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. And the prayer of the 3 great purposes. I go for refuge to the Guru and the 3 precious, rare, sublime jewels. Please bless my mental continuum. Please grant me blessings to cease immediately all wrong conceptions, from incorrect devotion to the Guru up to the subtle dual view of the white appearance, red increase, and black near attainment. Please grant me blessings to actualize immediately all the correct realizations from Guru devotion up to the unification of no more learning. Please pacify immediately all outer and inner obstacles. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Nirihatayami. And then again we make request. Guru Vajradhara, who encompasses all 3 objects of refuge, taking the form of the virtuous friend in whatever way subdues, and granting common and sublime realizations to you, kind Gurus, I make requests, whose holy body is created by millions of virtues and goodness, whose holy speech fulfills the wishes of all sentient beings, whose holy mind sees every existence exactly. At the holy feet of the principle of the Shakyas I make requests. By making offerings and requests with devotion to the highest sublime field of merit, to you, the Savior, who are the sole source of all my happiness and goodness, please grant me blessings and guide me with your pleased holy mind. And we recite the first verse of the foundation of all good qualities. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect. Take a moment to just steep the mind. In the practice done so far, those requests in the first verse of the foundation of all good qualities, just concentrating on our understanding. And then we begin to contemplate the need for a root guru. So we think, in my own life, I understand clearly that everything I have learned from the time I was born until now, between now and the time that I die, everything will come from a teacher. Whether it's in a book, something we hear, something we watch, whether it's a mentor, a knowledgeable friend, we learn everything from others. All of our skills, abilities, they've all come from the kindness, the patience, the wisdom of others. So pause and contemplate how important teachers have been and will continue to be in your life. And think of those who are particularly significant in your life. Think of all of the benefits that you received, the ways that they positively impacted your life. And try to generate a sense of gratitude. And begin to contemplate the great importance of a spiritual teacher, someone to show us what to practice, what to avoid, to lead us out of confusion into wisdom. Here we are trying to do something we've never done before. Up until now, we've circled within samsara. But our goal is full enlightenment, accomplishing something never before done in our own mind. So we definitely need to develop a relationship with a teacher, to rely on a guide. Who understands this path. So think along these lines until you feel strongly convinced and rest your mind in that conviction. And then begin to contemplate the kind of spiritual guide that you desire to find. Thinking of the qualities, those 10 qualities of a qualified Mahayana guru. You're thinking of the qualities that your own guru possesses. And then generate in your heart a strong, enthusiastic aspiration to find such a qualified spiritual guide. Connect with a sense of joy, confidence in being able to have that sort of relationship in your life. And when that feeling of confidence, joy arises, again, just rest your mind in it, single pointedly without distraction. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. And we'll dedicate for this session. Because of our merits, may I and all other sentient beings find a perfectly qualified spiritual guide, and in all our future lives may we never be separated from our spiritual guide nor from the pure Dharma teachings. May all our precious teachers have long and healthy lives, and may all their compassionate projects for sentient beings succeed perfectly without any obstacles. All right. We've not done any kind of Q&A. Is that helpful at this point, or no? Sounds like a no. So we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back. So we will come back at 5 after 11 Mountain Time, or whatever 10 minutes is for you. Do folks want to move directly into the next meditation, or again, opportunity to ask a question? Yep. You're muted.
I'm just curious, what are the topics of the 6 meditations we'll be doing?
So there's 4. So we
Oh,
did
4.
just the one, which was sort of 2. It was kind of a long, So we started out doing sort of the guru yoga practice of what's FPMT calls the daily practice of Shakyamuni Buddha. And then we moved directly into the need for a spiritual teacher. And then the next one that we'll do is also kind of 2, but we'll do it as 1. It can certainly be, and of course it depends on how a person wants to do it. A person, these 2 are the advantages of proper reliance and the disadvantages of improper reliance. So within each of those, it's true that there's a number of subpoints, and absolutely a person could take just one of those, right? And they could structure probably 2 days or 3 days of, if they wanted to, just really focusing on each of the subpoints in a more expansive way. We're not going to do that, but you could. I mean, because there's 8 advantages and 8 disadvantages. So there's 16 different, kind of like with precious human rebirth. You've got the 18 qualities of a precious human rebirth. You could spend a lot of time going very slowly in a very elaborate way through all of those 18 qualities, or you could kind of do more like a glance meditation on the 18 qualities in a single session or in 2 sessions. So really it really depends on what the person is interested in, how much time you have, that sort of thing, how you want to do it. So it's just one way of doing it. And then the 2 that we'll do in the afternoon are both on how to properly rely on the teacher in thought, but they'll be emphasizing different. There's two variations of that meditation that we'll do in the afternoon.
Okay, thanks, Venerable.
I have a question, Vin.
Yep.
Thank you for being here today. I have a few questions. Trying to get my thoughts together. Feel like I think I hesitate to ask questions that seem kind of like conflicting or something, but why not? My question, sir, is I find sometimes like when meditating on the specifics of the Buddha or any of the Buddhas or like Tara, like when we talk, we get into the specifics of where the hands are and being on the lotus and all that. I find when I try to focus on envisioning or even envisioning the medicine Buddha above my crown, all that and getting into the details a bit distracting versus if I focus on the characteristics, the qualities, and just envisioning like the light, and I kind of like I'm able to like connect better and like feel their compassion. But I wonder if the reason we have that um, is to because everyone's different is to allow people to who need that to focus, just as doing that for me is distracting. So I guess my question is it necessary? Is maybe there is no wrong or right way. Maybe you can do it either way. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there isn't a wrong way to do it. I mean, as long as you are exposing yourself to some written description, that is, or an image, something that is a valid source of information to kind of set your own understanding, either through, as I say, a tanka, fabric painting, or a statue, a card, something like that, or through one of the sadhanas where there is this written description. If you at least are looking at that, reading that, and getting some imprints from a valid, because we do want to avoid going off on some far off, kind of unrelated thing. We want to make sure that at least, the color is correct, that, the general idea is correct. I do, the only, so if that's the best entryway for you, then that's perfect, of course. I do think that by starting every time that we're doing that with looking at an image or reading a description, just that itself over time will help, with the details, will help with just by, as I read, all of the details about, and I think just reading that, even if you can't do it, like not skipping that, but just reading it, because we know like what you when we read it individually, we have some sense of like, okay, and then it's putting all of it together that can be a bit overwhelming, that can be a bit, a lot. But it's really just habit. It's really just that it's an unfamiliar object. We've not really made consistent effort in this brand new form that we've never tried. If the instruction was to use, was to bring the image of your loved one above the crown of your head, you probably wouldn't struggle in the same way. You probably, you would, the color of their eyes, their complexion, whatever their hairstyle is, the clothes that they typically wear, their countenance, they would all probably pretty easily, be there all together all at once with a lot of clarity. If it was your best friend, your child, your husband, your wife, whatever, the person closest to you, your mother, your father, because that's a very, very familiar object. So the struggle really is just that it's new. The only other two things that I would say is that the image, the more detailed version of the image does carry unique meaning. There are reasons why, like, for example, you mentioned Tara, right? So when we visualize Tara, Tara is coming up off the meditation cushion for the benefit of sentient beings, right? She has one foot outstretched. She's not absorbed in meditation. She's arising out of meditation. She's leaping into action for the benefit of sentient beings. And that is a more detailed aspect rather than just sort of like, oh, there's this sort of green, And again, that's perfect. Like if for you at the beginning, there's just kind of this sort of green energy, perfect. Um, there is a added value when you can connect with that kind of imagery of this enlightened being who's arising out of their meditation to come to the aid of sentient beings. So these visualizations, they all have really, the actual form is connected with meaning that benefits our mind when we understand it, when we've studied it, when we can bring it to mind, when we can actually, it moves the mind in a different way. So to have the aspiration, I think, of like, yeah, great, this is how this is what it is for me now, and this is great. But at the start of every session, I'm gonna look at the image, I'm gonna look at the description, and I'm gonna just gradually become more familiar. And then I think, in very advanced stages of meditation, visualization is also used in the Vajrayana tradition. And there, the visualizations become, almost beyond comprehension, the way that they describe a meditator being able to hold the details of it. And that has a lot to do with the the chakras and the energy system of the body. But of course, we may not get to that in this life, but we may be able to create some imprints, that are beneficial, at least for future lives. So getting to that point has great, is ultimately necessary. Maybe, we shouldn't beat ourselves up and think, well, it's got to happen soon or it's got to happen. But it becomes necessary, at least at the point where we're actually going to achieve enlightenment, that kind of focused, and of course, by that time you've developed fully qualified calm abiding, which is very helpful for concentration and very helpful for these things. But the quickest way also to achieve fully qualified calm abiding is through visualization, really. It's not, you can get there with the breath and other things, but visualization plays, an important role in that as a quicker path. So there are a lot of benefits to it, and we should, I think just keeping in mind those benefits and slowly, moving in a direction is great. And, if in a particular session, it's really just, it isn't the whole image, but it's maybe just the face, or it's maybe just the hands, or it's maybe, something, you get some greater clarity, then that's fantastic. Like, you don't have to think every single detail has to always be there. You can build that over time, and just be patient and, like that. But
Thank you, Venerable. That was very helpful, actually. As you were telling me, it was actually becoming a little bit more clear for me. As you were telling me that, I can see that um, just that openness to connect and seeing, like the medicine Buddha, um, or the Buddha of compassion and mercy, which I really like to work with the Om Mani Padme Hum chants. It's something very simple I do with the intentions of purification, and because the Vajrasattva I can't do it on my own yet, so that's what I do for that intention of just reflection and maybe regret on wrongful speech, and with the intention of resolution. So I do that. But yes, I have the 6 syllable here in my prayer room here, but I haven't been able to visualize. But as you were talking and I was thinking about what you were saying, I was like, just being able to see details means I'm in a deeper state, and to hold that, it kind of started to make sense. It still feels above my pay grade, but it's, it doesn't feel like I don't feel disconnected from what you're saying. So I do believe it is a process that will take time, But as you're speaking, I can see the benefit of how envisioning it isn't about like worshiping. It's about connecting and being able to connect deeper and hold that. And then I imagine myself being able to hold that out in the world. If I was somewhere and being able to see that, how beneficial that could be for me. That's kind of what I got from what you just said. But it will take me time to catch up to that, of course.
Yeah, I mean, all of these, all of the Buddhas have all of the enlightened qualities simultaneously, but we're quite limited. So it's helpful that we focus on compassion, we focus on love, we focus on enlightened activity and more healing, the healing aspect of enlightened mind, these different aspects. And that's really all these archetypal forms are representations. And of course, our own mind, is suitable for achieving enlightenment. And so these are qualities that we ourselves will possess, that we ourselves are trying to connect to. It's not separate from our own mind. It's just that right now, with the operative afflicted states, we can't tap into that because the mind is, there's obscured by what is operative in the mind. But these are qualities that mind itself naturally would possess if and when it were free of those afflicted, states. So it's just another way of connecting with what our own nature is, with what our own capacity is, because we will achieve enlightenment one day, and then just like Chenrezig and Tara and Medicine Buddha and all of those enlightened qualities will be present in our own mind. But until then, it can be helpful to think of how that energy manifests, and then to as you're saying, hold the mind in a representation of how it manifests, to give us kind of a roadmap, kind of like, well, that's the goal, that's the result, is to be Tara. The goal is to be Medicine Buddha, is to be Avalokiteshvara. So how do they manifest, and how do I bring those qualities? How do I associate my own mind as, even though it is afflicted, even though it is obscured, how do I, just like when we admire anyone, when we admire, a, a great teacher, or what are their called? How do they show up in the world? And then we want to be like that. We want to, a great teacher, a great poet, a great, whatever we think is impactful. We admire how they present themselves, and we try to, also think, well, I should be like that to some degree. And it's really the same psychological process.
Thank you, Venerable. One last question, Venerable. I'm on a roll. But I think during the class I may have missed some of the 10 qualities. I know that Venerable mentioned even like as a spiritual teacher or guide at some level, you want a minimum of 5 of those qualities. But there were overall 10 qualities we're looking for. Would you mind, Venerable, at some point today going over those 10?
Sure, yeah. It's I mean, it takes so basically you want someone who, I mean, it takes a long time to go through it in detail, but basically subdued, a teacher whose mind is subdued, subdued through training in ethics, and then pacified through training in concentration. So ideally, someone whose ethics is, pure, stainless, they don't make mistakes with harming sentient beings. And then ideally they've realized at least fully qualified calm abiding, or, pretty close to that, so that their mind is pacified. Because when you have fully qualified calm abiding, you find it quite easy for the mind not to wander into entertainment or affliction. It might arise, but you can easily move the mind back. Whereas for us, like, that's not true. And then So they call that pacified. So subdued, pacified, and then thoroughly pacified. They have these, it probably sounds better in Tibetan is what I always say when like all of these English things. So subdued, pacified, thoroughly pacified, which means that they, again, ideally they have a direct non-conceptual realization of emptiness, but they won't tell you that they do. So, you know, but that's what you would hope for, is that they have a direct non-conceptual realization. If not, a correct inferential understanding of emptiness is workable too. And then of course they want them to have more knowledge and more qualities than you have. You want them to have enthusiastic perseverance, to not get discouraged when they need to explain things again and again and again, because we just can't. That's Lama Zopa Rinpoche taught the same things for 40 years, because his students, they just and every time he would just go through it again and again and again, and perfectly happy to always just keep, because we need that kind of repetition. And then having what they call just a wealth of scriptural knowledge. Someone who's really studied, who's studied the sutras, studied the tantras, that they do in the monasteries, they do a lot of memorization, so they can recall different quotes and different things that might be helpful. And then having being skilled in teaching. So a person, of course, they might know a lot, but they're just not, they have trouble connecting with other people, or they're just not personable. They're kind of scholarly. They're more academic, but they have trouble relating to people. So you don't want that in a teacher. You want someone who's really skilled in explaining and using analogies and using common sense language and bringing things down to the level of the student, being able to explain things in different levels. Someone who's motivated by love and compassion, who's altruistic, who genuinely cares about their students. Not someone who's trying to get money or fame, or they didn't say, oh, well, if I do this, then I can have a whole, I can get a fancy car, and people will give me money. And, you want someone whose motivation is genuine love, genuine compassion, and they really care about their students. Yeah. So I think those are the larger list of qualities. And then the 5 qualities is again, is really 1 through 3. So subdued in ethics, concentration, and wisdom, having love and compassion, and then having a realization of the nature of reality to a relatively high degree. And if we have trouble with that, then there's the shortest list is the list of 3. So more good qualities than bad qualities, more concern for others than him or herself, and more concern for future lives than this life. So, meaning that they're at least, a practitioner of the small scope. Everything that they do is at least in the direction of good future rebirth. So they're not caught up in the affairs of this life. So that would be kind of like an ordinary. So it's kind of different levels. A perfectly qualified Mahayana guru has all 10 qualities. But if someone at least doesn't have those last 3, you probably shouldn't, rely on them for any kind of advice, spiritual. I mean, of course, they could be a friend of yours, but who's like helping you, like me. I'm just a friend of people who's like helping people, like pointing out resources and things. But for a person to say, well, I feel qualified in like having students and that kind of thing, then they need to have more good qualities than bad qualities. Not true for myself. More concern for others than myself, not true for myself. More concern for future lives than this life, not true for myself. So not a teacher, not a guru, more like just a student who has heard things, that other people maybe haven't heard yet. But a guru needs to at least have those 3. Otherwise, they shouldn't be in the role of a guru, of a teacher.
Thank you so much, Venerable.
All right, let's go on to the next meditation, and then we'll break for lunch. So there are, as I say, there are 16 different qualities, so we're not going to do this in a detailed way. We're going to kind of just glance through them, and then as we do that, try to just bring to mind examples of them in your own experience. So again, we all know how to put ourselves into meditation posture. So we'll just take a moment to transition by focusing on the breath to calm the mind. And so then we'll begin thinking about the 8 advantages of practicing proper reliance, correctly relying on the spiritual guide in words, in thoughts, and deeds. When we engage in proper reliance, the first advantage is that we ourselves move closer to enlightenment. We do this because we are putting their advice into practice. And also because we are offering service. And trying to find ways of looking after the needs of the teacher in whatever way we can. And by listening and applying what they teach us. The second advantage is that by properly relating to the spiritual guide, this teacher that we're trained to see as the Buddha, it pleases the minds of all the Buddhas. They delight in this relationship, this virtuous relationship that we are respecting, and we're taking care of, upholding. It's an indication that we take our spiritual lives seriously, which pleases the minds of all of the Buddhas, as they want to see us achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. They want us to put an end to our own suffering. And then the third advantage is that we will remain undisturbed by spirits, or those with ill intent, as we abide in virtue. So in this way our mind is protected. The Guru is a powerful karmic object. So through proper reliance, we, in a way, purify any causes that might ripen as being able to be harmed in those ways. And the fourth advantage is that by putting the Guru's instructions into practice, by traversing this path in accordance with their instructions, we begin to put an end to misdeeds and delusions. Because the Guru teaches only virtue. The Guru teaches effective antidotes to delusion, affliction. And by relating to the Guru as Buddha, we have extra power in listening to their advice, as though the Buddha himself is giving that advice. And with that special relationship, our insights, our realizations, our good qualities increase. And then next by abiding in proper reliance, we will be met with virtuous friends, gurus. In all of our future lives, we've created the causes and the conditions to meet these perfectly qualified teachers again and again. And then by maintaining this relationship purely, we are protected from the arising of the strongest negative karmas at death, which can bring about a rebirth in the lower realms. Again, through the karmic power of that object, the person that is the Buddha for us. The power of that relationship protects the mind. And the last advantage with that strength in our mind, that connection, we will have no trouble achieving whatever aims we set ourselves to achieve. If we maintain that relationship purely, then our mind becomes strong, powerful. And wherever we direct it, we find that those virtuous goals are easily accomplished. And then just as there are advantages that flow from proper reliance, there are disadvantages, there are negative consequences that result from improper reliance. So if we even inadvertently disparage our guru, the person that we have chosen freely to see as the Buddha for ourselves, then we insult all of the Buddhas, which is a heavy negative karma in the mind. If we allow thoughts of anger to arise toward the Guru, then our merits are degenerated, our positive energy built up perhaps over many, many lifetimes is burned away by the fire of the anger due to the power of that relationship. And we also create karmic causes to experience great suffering. And the third and fourth disadvantages relate to even practitioners of Vajrayana. Without maintaining proper reliance, even the powerful practice of Vajrayana will not create the causes of enlightenment. It will only create the causes of rebirth in the lower realms. And think that our own good qualities will degenerate. And the ability to grow our good qualities will be blocked. Because the Guru is such a powerful karmic object, we sow seeds of suffering even in this life. If our reliance is improper. And then those karmic seeds, when they ripen at death, are very likely to lead to suffering realms. And when we regain human rebirths, we will be without spiritual guides. born in places without teachings, without teachers. So having contemplated in this way, give rise to a strong, unshakable determination to practice proper reliance, to guard the mind against disparaging the Guru, showing disrespect. And hold that resolve in your mind without distraction. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. And we'll recite the same dedication. Because of our merits, may I and all sentient beings find a perfectly qualified spiritual guide, and in all our future lives may we never be separated from our spiritual guide, nor from the pure Dharma teachings. May all our precious teachers have long and healthy lives, and may all their compassionate projects for sentient beings succeed perfectly without any obstacles. All right, is there anything before lunch to address? The answer to that question is almost always no. All right, we will return at 1:30 for the remainder.